She said, "Your car was blocking my son's path, but my Dodge Challenger was parked right in my own driveway." That's how it all started, with Karen standing on my lawn, waving her arms like she owned the whole street. Her son, Chase, that spoiled 20-year-old brat with messy blonde hair and a fake tough guy attitude, leaned against his mom's SUV, grinning like he already got away with something. I didn't know yet, but that grin would be the last calm moment before everything went insane. Karen marched up, pointing her finger in my face. "You people think you can park however you want. This is an HOA community. My son has places to be." Her voice cracked like she was leading a courtroom she invented herself. I kept my calm. "Ma'am, that's my property line. My car's registered and parked legally." She scoffed. "We'll see about that." Then she stormed off, but I noticed her son staring a little too long at my Challenger. That car was my pride, candy red, spotless, custom black rims, engine humming like a beast even when parked. Later that night, I was inside, editing some dashcam footage from my weekend drive when I heard the loudest roar, my car's roar. I jumped from my chair, sprinted to the window, and my heart dropped. My Challenger was gone. Tires screeched down the street. I caught a glimpse of it under the streetlight, Chase behind the wheel, laughing. I ran outside, barefoot, shouting, "That's my car." But Karen came out too, pretending to look shocked. "My son would never steal," she said, voice trembling with fake innocence. "You probably loaned it to him." I pulled out my phone, showing her the security camera feed, Chase breaking into my car with a spare key. She froze. "That's not what it looks like." Before I could answer, police sirens echoed in the distance. My phone buzzed with a live alert. "Police chase in progress, red Dodge Challenger speeding through Oakwood Avenue." Karen's face turned white. "Oh my God," she whispered. But deep down, I could tell, she wasn't scared for me. She was scared her perfect little, wah prince, just got caught on live TV. I looked her dead in the eye. "You wanted to control the neighborhood, Karen. Now the whole state's watching your son try to outrun a helicopter." Her jaw dropped. The reflection of red and blue lights flashed over her lawn. And that's when the loudspeaker blared from above, a helicopter hovering low, spotlight slicing the night sky. "Driver of the red Challenger, stop the vehicle now." And I whispered, almost to myself, "This just got real." The entire neighborhood was outside now, phones in the air, live streaming the chaos. Karen stood frozen on the curb, clutching her robe as if it could hide her shame. Her voice trembled, "He's just a kid. They can't chase him like that." I didn't even look at her. My phone screen showed the live news feed, Chase weaving through traffic, engines roaring, police units closing in. The reporter's voice cracked with tension. "The suspect is driving a stolen Dodge Challenger, believed to belong to a resident of Oakwood Hills." That one line hit her like a slap. Belonged to a resident. Everyone turned toward me, the resident. Karen's head dropped. But instead of apologizing, she hissed, "You're setting my son up. I'll sue you for defamation." I took a step closer, my voice steady. "Karen, your son is on live TV in my car. There's no defamation, only truth." She pointed her shaking hand at me, shouting, "You planted that footage. You hacked my son's phone. I know people, high up." Her voice cracked again, desperate, almost unhinged. But deep down, I knew, this wasn't about her son anymore. It was about her losing control. Then came the twist. The live feed showed Chase pulling into the interstate, pushing 120 miles per hour. The helicopter's spotlight followed him like a curse. Suddenly, I noticed something the reporter didn't. A second car, dark SUV, following from a distance. I zoomed in. My jaw tightened. That wasn't a police car, it was Karen's husband, Greg. He was trying to help his son escape. I turned the phone toward Karen. "That your husband's SUV?" Her face went pale. "He's just trying to calm Chase down." I almost laughed. "By chasing him at 120 miles an hour. Seconds later, the news helicopter's camera caught it, Greg's SUV swerving too close. It clipped Chase's Challenger from behind. The car spun, tires screeching, metal grinding, then, a flash of smoke and sparks. The live feed cut to static for a moment. Karen screamed, "No, my baby." She dropped to her knees, sobbing. But I couldn't move. My heart raced, not from joy, not even from anger, just disbelief. Then the screen came back. Chase's Challenger was stopped on the shoulder, hood steaming, surrounded by flashing red and blue lights. Officers approached with guns drawn. The reporter's voice came back, trembling. The suspect has been taken into custody, without serious injuries. Karen covered her mouth, whispering, "Thank God." But she didn't see what I saw, one officer holding up a pair of keys. My keys. The ones with my name engraved. And that's when I realized, this wasn't over. Not even close. Because if Karen's family tried this hard to protect a lie, what would they do when I showed the world the rest of the footage? The next morning, Oakwood Hills looked like a crime scene mixed with a circus. News vans lined the street, reporters swarming like vultures, cameras flashing at every house. Karen's white picket fence, once her pride, was now taped off by police. I stood on my porch, sipping coffee, watching her pretend everything was fine. She waved at a reporter, forcing a smile that couldn't hide the cracks in her face. When she saw me, her fake charm vanished. She stormed across the lawn, eyes wild. "You happy now? You ruined my son's life. He's in jail because of you." I set my cup down slowly. "Karen, your son stole my car, nearly killed 3 people, and tried to outrun the police. He ruined his own life." She stepped closer, her voice low and venomous. "You think you're the hero here. You're not one of us. You don't belong in this neighborhood." That line, "you don't belong," hit harder than she knew. I took a breath, looked her straight in the eye, and said, "Funny thing is, Karen, I own this land. The HOA doesn't." Her face froze. "That's not possible. All properties here are under the HOA." I pulled a folded document from my jacket pocket. "Not this one. This land was bought before the HOA existed. You've been trespassing every time you stepped on my lawn." Her eyes darted back and forth, searching for a lie to grab onto. You forged that." I smiled faintly. "Go ahead. Ask the county clerk." That shut her up, for about 5 seconds. Then she screamed, "You think your fancy papers scare me? I'll get the board involved. We'll make you leave." That's when a familiar voice echoed from the street. "That won't be necessary, ma'am." We both turned. It was Officer Ramirez, the same cop from the chase last night. He held his hat under his arm, calm but firm. "Ma'am, I'm here to serve a warrant." Karen blinked. "A warrant? For who?" He looked her dead in the eye. "For your son, and your husband. Aiding and abetting theft, reckless endangerment, and obstruction of justice." Karen's knees nearly gave out. "Obstruction? What are you talking about?" Ramirez handed her a printed photo, a screenshot from my security footage. It showed her standing by the garage that night, whispering something to her husband. Before he drove off. "She knew," I said quietly. "She told him where Chase went." Karen tried to speak, but her words died in her throat. Ramirez motioned toward the police cruiser waiting at the corner. "Ma'am, I suggest you come with us. We have questions." She glared at me, trembling. "You did this to us." I leaned forward slightly and said the line that would go viral later that day. "No, Karen, you did this to yourself when you thought the rules only applied to everyone else." As she was escorted away, the cameras captured everything. The woman who once ruled the neighborhood with fake notices and power trips, now the subject of every headline in the county. But while everyone celebrated justice, I knew there was one last secret no one else had seen yet. Because on my security feed, there was another figure in the footage that night. Someone standing in the shadows, right before the car was stolen. That night, when the neighborhood finally quieted down, I sat alone in my living room, replaying the footage over and over. The glow from the monitor flickered across the walls, showing the same scene, Chase breaking into my Challenger, but then, right before he opened the door, a faint reflection moved near the fence line. Someone else was there. I slowed it down, zoomed in. A tall figure in a hoodie, standing in the shadows behind the bushes, watching everything. Not Chase. Not Greg. Someone else. My stomach tightened. Who the hell was that? I checked the timestamp, 5 minutes before the car alarm went off. The figure didn't help Chase break in, but they didn't stop him either. They just watched, then disappeared toward Karen's backyard. That's when I remembered something. 2 days before the theft, a maintenance truck parked near her house for hours. No company name, no tools, no workers. Just sitting there. I grabbed my jacket, walked out quietly, and headed toward the fence. The night air was cold, the grass damp under my shoes. The spot where the figure had stood was still disturbed, broken branches, a footprint pressed into the dirt. A man's shoe, heavy tread. Before I could think, a flashlight beam hit my face. Evening, a deep voice said. I raised my hands slightly. Officer Ramirez. He stepped forward, nodding. You shouldn't be out here alone, sir. We've been reviewing that footage too. I frowned. So you saw it? He nodded again, his jaw tight. We identified the figure. He's not from this neighborhood, but he's connected to Karen's husband. Private investigator. Ex-traffic officer. Looks like Greg hired him a month ago. For what? I asked. Ramirez hesitated. To dig up dirt on you. I felt my blood run cold. On me. Why? He took a slow breath. Because they thought you were lying about owning your property. The HOA has been trying to force you out for months. Greg was building a case to challenge your title deed in court. I laughed bitterly. So the car theft wasn't random. No, Ramirez said quietly. It was a setup. They were trying to get you arrested for insurance fraud, claim you staged the theft yourself. I stared at him, speechless. You're saying Karen's whole family planned this? He nodded. Almost the whole family. Except, we think someone else flipped the plan on them. I blinked. What do you mean? Ramirez looked over his shoulder, scanning the empty street. Your security system, who installed it? My brother, I said. He works for Homeland Security. Why? Ramirez gave a slow, half smile. Because whoever tried to wipe that footage last night didn't realize your system's backed by federal encryption. My pulse quickened. Someone tried to erase the footage. He nodded. At 2 a.m. sharp. From inside Karen's house. I stared at him, every muscle in my body tensing. Karen was already in custody. Greg was too. Chase was in juvenile detention. So who the hell was still in that house at 2 a.m.? Ramirez lowered his voice. That's what we're about to find out. Then he turned toward the dark, silent house across the street. Karen's house, its porch light flickering like it knew what was coming next. The next morning, the neighborhood woke up to sirens, again. But this time, there weren't any choppers or high-speed chases. Just a quiet tension that crawled through every driveway. Karen's house was surrounded by black SUVs and unmarked cars. FBI logos on the jackets. I stood at my window, watching. Something felt different, heavier. A knock came at my door. I opened it to find Officer Ramirez, this time with 2 agents beside him. Morning, he said, calm but serious. We need to talk. I let them in. One of the agents, a woman with sharp eyes and a steady tone, spoke first. Sir, we have evidence that your security footage links to a much larger case. We believe Karen's husband, Greg, wasn't just involved in the car theft or HOA corruption. He's tied to an underground real estate scheme, one that's been flipping properties through fake HOA ownership claims. I blinked. So this was never just about my car. She shook her head. No, your car theft was a trigger event. The moment it went public, they panicked. Someone tried to wipe your footage that night because it exposed more than they realized. I leaned forward. That hooded figure in the recording. She nodded slowly. We ran facial recognition. His name's Todd Barrett, ex-cop, fired for tampering with property records. He's been working for Greg under the radar. Ramirez pulled out a tablet, showing me a still image. There he was, Todd, standing in my backyard, his face half lit by the streetlight. But behind him, in the faint reflection of my car's side mirror, another face appeared. Karen's daughter. I froze. Wait, she was there too. Ramirez nodded. She came home from college 2 days before the theft. We didn't think she was involved, but this changes everything. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. So the entire family was in on it, the agent finished. They were using the HOA to pressure homeowners, forge documents, and flip properties illegally. You were just the one person they couldn't intimidate. Outside, the agents moved toward Karen's house. The front door opened after a few knocks. A young woman in a hoodie, Karen's daughter, Lily, stepped out, looking dazed and terrified. She was holding a laptop. Ramirez turned to me. We found the data they tried to delete. It's all in there, fake notices, altered deeds, and payment logs. It's over. I watched as they led Lily to a car, her eyes wet with tears. For the first time, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Karen's family had built their empire on lies, And it all came crashing down because her son couldn't resist stealing one shiny car. My car. The agent looked back at me before leaving. You should know, your brother's encryption saved this whole case. Without it, they would have gotten away clean. I nodded, silent. When the last car left, the neighborhood felt still again. Birds chirped. The air was calm. But that calm carried weight, the kind that comes after a storm has finally spent all its rage. As I stood there, looking at the empty house across the street, a thought hit me. The same woman who once shouted, "You don't belong here," had just lost the house she tried to rule. I whispered to myself, funny, I didn't have to fight her. The truth did it for me. The next morning, the headline spread across every local station. HOA queen arrested in property fraud sting, exposed by homeowner's security footage. And the closing line of the broadcast, the one that made the entire country nod in satisfaction, said it best. Greater than, he didn't fight for attention. He fought for the truth. And in the end, justice came knocking on Karen's door. The end.